Hey everyone, I finally gilded my Conqueror's title, and since then I wanted to go ahead and show you all my build that I used that carried me through all the Grandmasters. This build is very, very good for every single one this season, and I actually never switched off for anything. The only thing I did was really switch around my weapons, which we'll get into in a second. So without further ado, here is the build that I ran. So obviously running Solar 3.0, I got Well of Radiance, keeps you alive, gives you damage. It's very, very good. It could be a little bit better if they gave you Overshield again, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. So this is good for now. Running Empowering Rift pairs very, very well with Starfire Protocol, which we'll get into in a second. So that is why I'm running Empowering Rift. Burst Glide is our jump. Running Incinerator Snap, I can kill a lot of ads very quickly and provide Scorch stacks, which makes them in turn explode, which is awesome. And running fusion grenades. You can already see where it's going, again with Starfire Protocol, so I'm going to get 2 fusion nades. And when you pair that with Touch of Flame, they're going to do double the explosions and a lot more damage. The other aspect doesn't really matter, but I would highly recommend Icarus Dash over Heat Rises, mainly because Heat Rises, you eat the grenade, and when you eat the grenade, you can fly around. You don't want to eat your fusion nades, you just want to throw them, so that's not very usable in my opinion. And Icarus Dash pairs very, very well in Grandmasters because you could dodge fairly well and pretty easily just by jumping and scrolling for me. So very good. I like Icarus Dash a lot, and I think it pairs well. So as for our fragments, running Solace, so our Radiant and Restoration, mainly Restoration here, is going to have increased duration. Ember of Ashes applies more Scorch stacks, mainly off of our melee and our fusion nade. Running Ember of Eruption, your solar ignitions have increased area of effect. This gives us plus 10 to strength as well. And finally, Ember of Wonder gives us plus 10 resilience, that's the main thing, but rapidly defeating multiple targets with solar ignitions generates an orb of power, which is good as well. So that build right there pairs really, really well with Starfire Protocol, mainly because this is going to give us an extra fusion grenade, and our grenade kills will charge a rift. So pretty much what's going to happen is you sit in an empowering rift, that is going to give you your grenades back as you shoot your empowered weapon damage. That's going to refund grenade energy, and when you get kills with your fusion grenades, it's going to give you rift energy, so you can just cycle through and spam grenades and spam rifts all over the place. And when you run Classy Restoration, every single time you drop an empowering rift, you are going to get healed, which is very, very, very overpowered in Grandmasters in my opinion. So that is a must use. And I think this build plus Classy plus Starfire Protocol makes you virtually unkillable. So keep that in mind. Also running Solar Fulmination. This makes our ignitions do more damage and has an increased radius. So off of our grenades and our melee, we're going to have even higher damage from the grenades, which is awesome. So as for our stats really, really quickly, these are pretty baseline. I feel like you should probably run a few really high ones and mainly not care about other ones, but here is what I would recommend you run. If you're on Warlock or Titan, or for this build in particular, I have really low mobility. Mobility is not necessary in a Grandmaster unless you're a Hunter, so there's no reason to have high mobility. So I would try to get this as low as possible. Also running 10 resilience. In my opinion, this is a must. If at lowest, you should have 9 resilience in my opinion. Anything lower than that, you're going to take a lot more damage, which is nowhere near as good. But with 10, I take 40% damage reduction, and I pretty much can tank a lot in Grandmasters. So normal mobs that would kill you in like 2 to 3 bullets will kill me in 4. I want to say like 6 bullets, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is in the grand scheme of things. And I probably tank harder than that anyway. My recovery is at 8. In my opinion, this is actually really high and not necessary, mainly because with Classy Restoration and Starfire Protocol giving me infinite healing rifts, I really don't need high recovery. So in my opinion, this does not matter with this build almost at all. Though if you do mess up your rotations or you don't get kills with your fusion nades, then you're definitely going to want to get your rift back somewhat quickly. So having it hot, somewhat high, I would say around 6 is good, but 8 might be a little overkill. In my opinion, I would rather have 8 discipline rather than 8 recovery in Grandmasters this season. But that is just me. Speaking about our discipline here, I have 7. So that is giving us a 40-second cooldown, which is nice. But again, ultimately does not matter because we're just going to sit in rifts and get our grenade back really, really quickly anyway, just by getting a few damages or just doing damage in general while sitting in Empowering Rift or while Radiance, which is awesome. And you could just spam fusion nades with that. So, and again, if you mess up a rotation, you can get your fusion nades fairly quickly with 40 seconds. So that's very good as well. Intellect, in my opinion, is somewhat important in Grandmasters, though, because I'm using a tier 5 or whatever it is super ability, it really doesn't matter to me. I'm getting it back in 7 minutes base, but at 3, which is pretty quickly in my opinion, or pretty quick in my opinion. But even still, I don't think it matters necessarily because with certain builds, it's really not going to affect me. So I get my Well of Radiance back very, very quickly anyway. So that's nice. I have 4 strength. I don't really care about my strength. This could be literally 0. I don't really care about my melee that much at all. So I'm running 4. Though if you do like having higher strength, you could definitely run that as well. So, but I don't think there's really a cap for how high you should have it. I would say you should definitely prioritize these 3 over it. That being resilience, recov, and discipline. But if you like juicing it up a little bit, that's fine. But I personally am not going to be doing that. So, and this is what I was running for a majority of the time, as in our stats. So you can see I have Well of Ordnance. So sorry. Okay, Well of Ordnance here. So picking up a solar elemental well gives us more grenade energy, basically giving us our grenade energy as quickly as possible. And our scaz, I have rocket ammo. These depends on on what heavy I'm using. So if I'm using a linear, I'm going to put on linear, but for most of them I was using a rocket, so that's why I have rockets on. As for our gloves, these also depend on what I'm using. If I'm running overload, I'll put on overload, right? Or whatever the combo was of the 3. I would stay away from glaive though. I'm just saying. Also got Well of Life as well. Picking up a solar elemental well grants increased regen for a short period of time. So that is very good as well. That is going to give us more healing and more ways of staying alive, which is awesome. If I'm only running one, like let's say Unstoppable or just Anti-Barrier, I'm definitely going to run a fastball. Basically just makes your grenades quicker, so you can throw your grenades farther and just way, way deadlier nades in my opinion. As for Starfire protocol here, this is what I got on it. I don't have it masterworked. I could, I'm just not going to. But I got Armor of the Dying Star. This is very, very good because it's going to reduce that solar damage and that void damage. This is very, very clutch in my opinion, and I really like running that. I also have Concussive Dampener that reduces incoming area of effect damage from combatants. And of course, Elemental Ordnance, again, right here. So we are going to defeat a combatant with a grenade, spawns an elemental well that matches our subclass, and that is how we get our Well of Life. And when I run a second Well of Ordnance, if I'm not mistaken, it stacks. So I do have 2 on. Might not stack, but I thought it did, so keep that in mind. And as for our boots here, again, the scav is very, very dependent on what heavy I'm rocking. I have Gallarhorn on, so I'm going to use a rocket scav. But the main thing here is seeking wells. This makes the wells track me, so I don't have to go and seek them out as hard. They can come to me as well, which makes it very, very good in Grandmasters. And again, that gives us more heals and grenade energy, which is very, very good as well. And we already talked about this a little bit ago, I think. But again, Classy Restoration gives us infinite rifts, infinite healing, and Solar Fulmination for increased damage, which is very, very good. And the last thing I want to talk about is our weapons, because these vary a lot depending on the strike. So if it's an Anti-Barrier Unstop, I'm going to either run New Purpose in an Aisha's Embrace, or sometimes I like to run my Last Perdition here, or even Horror's Lease, depending on the shields, and a Hung Jury as my primary. I really like this Hung Jury. I've been using it a lot. Bottomless Grief, One for All. It's pretty good, but it does have big ones on it. You can't get this anymore, unfortunately, so lucky me for having this. I saved 2 of these. I love the Hung Jury. It's a classic. But yeah, I use these 2 in Grandmasters a lot. I use Hung Jury, I use Horror's Least, and I use Aisha's Embrace. Or if it's Overload, I like to run Sweet Sorrow as well. Um, Sweet Sorrow is very good in my opinion, though I don't know if I have the best roll of it, and I probably could craft a better one. But I do still like this roll a lot. I think it's good, and it does well against overloads, so that is why I'm using it. And of course, for our heavy, I have Gallarhorn here. Gallarhorn is very, very good all the time, to be honest with you. If it is Arc Burn, like on Sadia, the Corrupted Strike, I would not use Gallarhorn. I would definitely pick Stormchaser over it. But I am running Gallarhorn mainly for the most part in these strikes because it just does so well. Warden Nothing, if you have 3 Gallarhorns, you don't even need a shutdown super like a Blade Barrage or something, in my opinion. You could just spam Gallarhorns, it does the job just fine. Or if one of your buddies is using Blade Barrage, you can just use the... You don't have to have as many Gallarhorns, which is very, very good in my opinion. So that is why I like Gallarhorn, though. It is just really, really good in these. If it is Arc Burn, though, I run Stormchaser, but even in Void Burn, I'm not switching on Gallarhorn. I just keep Gallarhorn. But if it's Arc Burn, I'm going to put on Stormchaser because Stormchaser does insane damage as well. I would change my scavs as well, but that's besides the point. Anyway, I don't even have a good Stormchaser in my opinion. It's pretty bad for PvP or boss damage, I guess. So keep that in mind. You don't even need a good one. You can just have a mid-rolled one like mine, and it still does very, very well on terms of damage. This is very, very key in my opinion for solo, or not solo, but for one-phasing Sadia. So keep that in mind, and I definitely recommend running the Stormchaser. And for your primary here, I like to run 1 exotic at least. Sometimes my friend will run like what is it gun? Hard Light, sorry. Because it has all the elemental shields, and Sadia Strike has like all the elemental shields or something like that, so it comes in clutch very, very handily. But mainly what I would run on Sadia is this right here. I really like Wither Horde. Covers a lot of ground. Keeps you alive. It's good. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the build. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know this is kind of like a weird video, and I said it weird and whatnot, but I just wanted to put something out, and I think this build and I think the tips in the video are still very, very good and very true. So I do recommend that you give them a shot. So thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.